So I'm honored to hand the stage over to my colleague, Cassandra Etienne, who's going to talk about an initiative that you'll be hearing more from us about in 2022, the South Jersey Information Equity Project. And with that, Cassandra, take it away.
Thanks, Stephanie. So I'm switching gears here from host to presenter. Happy to be joining this afternoon and talk about the South Jersey Information Equity Project. That's one of the initiatives I manage here at the center. So we'll start with some background. The South Jersey Information Equity Project formed in 2019 as the center identified limited news resources in the region as part of our research. And that year, we joined with PABJ, the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, with the goal to improve the quality and quantity of news and information produced by and for communities of color. So from the start, we wanted this project to be powered and driven by news and media professionals and people living in and familiar with the issues impacting South Jersey. So with generous support from the Nicholson Foundation, we hired veteran journalist, former NABJ president and South Jersey resident, Sarah Glover, to assess the news landscape specifically for Black communities and journalists. So in her research, she interviewed a dozen Black journalists living and working in South Jersey, and through 10 community town halls helped to examine how traditional and non-traditional media outlets are serving South Jersey's Black communities. And her research paper, she proposed solutions to help advance media equity in the region. So our initial research found a clear need for more resources, more information sharing and storytelling, and the need for more support by Black-led media ventures. So I'll unpack those points a bit. In terms of resources, identifying what's needed to elevate the skills and the visibility of Black journalists in South Jersey. For information sharing and storytelling, how can we help increase those opportunities and stories produced by and for Black communities? And in terms of support for Black-led media ventures, I'll just bring up one example that is of South Jersey Journal, which was a monthly publication that launched in 2011 and that covered the growing African-American communities of Southern Jersey. The South Jersey Journal reached a readership of nearly 70,000 by 2018, with distribution sites in Mercer, Burlington, Camden, Gloucester, Salem, Cumberland, and Atlantic counties. Now, unfortunately, the journal stopped publication in 2018. And in speaking with Sarah as part of this project, locals indicated that they'd come to rely on the journal's coverage of South Jersey news, information, and cultural events. So community members did perceive a void in local news since the paper folded. These are the kinds of information gaps that we're hoping to mitigate through our efforts via the South Jersey Information Equity Project. So our research focused primarily on 3 counties, Camden, Gloucester, and Burlington. In our defined area in South Jersey, that is 32 cities, towns, or municipalities have Black populations of at least 20%, according to the US Census. So that's a significant audience that's not being reached and served by traditional media. And just to share a couple of responses from residents who participated in our local survey. When asked about their local news coverage, a 47-year-old resident from Camden spoke about the lack of positive news reports on the Black community. There's crime in every culture, they said, but yet they perceive an over-reliance on harmful racist stereotypes by news outlets. Another respondent, an educator based in Sicklerville, said, complained that the 6 o'clock local newscast from Philadelphia had nothing to do with Jersey except about the shore, and also critiqued the negative news coverage versus how they experience life in South Jersey. So now to address, help address some of these concerns, we're in phase 2 of the South Jersey Information Equity Project. And with funding from the Independence Public Media Foundation, we're beginning to implement new programs in South Jersey based on Sarah Glover's research. And our primary goals here are to amplify stories by and for the Black community through, in our 3 target counties, which are, again, Camden, Gloucester, and Burlington. The second goal is to build trust and community connections through media making. And the third is to strengthen the networks between Black journalists, media, and communities in South Jersey. So to accomplish these goals and create programs such as reporting fellowships and co-creation workshops, we're seeking more input from South Jersey-based journalists and media creators. So to start, we're sharing a 10-minute survey that seeks to gain a sense of what kinds of trainings and resources that the center might provide in continued partnership with PABJ. And also, how can we better support news and information initiatives by Black journalists and media makers in the region? We also have another announcement. We've completed our search for a project coordinator. We have hired Adrienne Baldock as our project coordinator, and we're so happy to have her join the center. At this point, I'd like to bring Adrienne up to just say hello and tell us a little bit about herself and her passion for amplifying opportunities for news and reporting in South Jersey.
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Adrienne. I'm currently reporting from home in South Jersey, the Burlington County area. Just a little bit about myself. I am a Montclair State alumni, and I had been working in media for over 10 years. Yes, I went to a technical school, which leveraged actually my experience in the field, and I've been working here ever since. So just collecting research, working in the community, staying abreast on community projects and events. I have been keeping track of most of the things that I have been seeing and what people have been asking for, what they need amidst this time. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. So throughout the 3 counties that I'm overseeing or being active in servicing through this opportunity, which I thank you guys so much for. I'm so happy to be here. There are so many things that I wish that, divine timing and, perfect timing is always at play, but being in the field and within the community for such a long time, I wish that I received this opportunity so much earlier, because there's so much coverage that we could have gave to the community within this last year, being that the pandemic sprung a lot of new things on us. So yeah, I don't want to talk too much, but if there's anything else I can highlight as far as maybe current events or community endeavors that have been going on that we can work on or introduce to the team, I'd be more than, happy to speak about them.
Okay. Thanks so much, Adrienne, and welcome once more to the center. We look forward to continuing to work with you, and we look forward to sharing more information with you about the South Jersey Information Equity Project as we continue to move forward with our goals.
Yeah. And so, this project, as you mentioned, we started in partnership with PABJ,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been important for us to continue that partnership. And I'm excited that we've been able to do that. And so we traveled recently down to Philly, and Cassandra presented to the members of PABJ down there. And one of the things that we've tried to do is increase their membership.
Right.
And so we've been paying for dues, and we've doubled, I think, the membership of Journalism South Jersey. And maybe even if Adrienne wants to come back on stage in a minute and talk more about this, but could we talk a little bit about the role that current journalists or former journalists or people who are media makers in South Jersey, how they might connect with the South Jersey Information Equity Project and what role that they might play, some opportunities we might have available for them through this?
Okay. Well, first off, I don't know if my contact information is still up there, but if anyone is interested in being and getting involved with this project, you can always reach out to me at Etienne, ETIENNEC Montclair.
We'll drop it in the
which
chat
is probably
for
in
you.
the chat, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, feel free to email me. And also I would say that we're really keen in identifying people in the community who aren't necessarily trained journalists, but are concerned about, the state of news coverage and the information gaps that they perceive in their communities. So these people will be instrumental in helping us to shape our co-creation workshops and participate and really get a chance to work with trained media professionals, trained reporters to create reporting projects that are reflective of, the issues that they see day to day in their community. As we saw in some of the responses, it was just a complete disconnect from the available news, I guess, options, disconnect between what's shown and really what they see on a day-to-day basis. So I think community input is really encouraged and key to this project.
And by working with PABJ, we've got a good base of Black journalists that we've been in touch with in South Jersey that we can get in touch with. And then something that Adrian's hit the ground running on is already identifying more media makers of color who don't have the platform they should. Right. I'm not sure how to even describe that. Joe, if we can bring Adrian back up on stage in a minute too, that would be fantastic. And I feel like, putting those networks together is going to be really important, and then amplifying their voices and figuring out the best platforms that we can help provide to give them more exposure. Adrian, do you want to talk for a moment about some of the folks that you've already identified and the media makers that you see who have a lot of promise that we could maybe help support?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that the pandemic gratefully did for us was they kept a lot of people home, but it gave a lot of people opportunity to take initiatives into their own hands to basically make the platforms and, create their own news through social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and so on and so forth. So, for example, in the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of peaceful protests were going on, just as far as the Black community goes. Specifically here in Willingboro, a lot of my peers actually came together and created an organization for the peaceful protests so they would be more organized in the Willingboro area. One of the epicenters in Willingboro is actually the marketplace, in which they just closed down not too long ago, which was, a very superfluous resource for our Black community in Willingboro, in which we did have a peaceful protest there. That would have been beautiful event coverage because they actually did a march down the entire JFK way leading up to the marketplace and just having, positive words and affirmations spoken into the community and things like that. Still continuing to this day, there are open mic nights and a lot of creatives are holding events that are very positive for our community. And it's right in Camden, it's right in Burlington, it's right in Gloucester County. And we're speaking of organizations that are fully prepared with the individuals that have the skills, just needing the opportunity, or maybe even some of the workshops to bring them up to, news and journalism standards. But they're out here working. And, open mic nights, there is Charles Curtis III, who also runs Politics and Poetry, which is actually a social media driven news resource from Rutgers Camden. And he is an alumni of Rutgers Camden, still working in news, just broadcasting his own journalism and what he's seeing in a part of the three counties. I can name Charles and so many other individuals. Rebecca Perrone, which is one of our council women in the community. I also spoke on voting that went on last week. Like was mentioned earlier, not everyone knew the background stories on who they were voting on. It wasn't always covered. That information was missing from this time around. And if we had more, journalisms covering the individuals, knowing who Ricardo Dale is in, our area for our counties and things like that, we would, have more sense of a family or community oriented news source in the South Jersey area. So those are just some of the things that I've just been collecting. And a list of individuals who are ready to and have already been ready to, continue on with the news in the area.
If there's any questions, drop in the chat. I'm happy to pose them to Cassandra or Adrian, myself. Otherwise, we will probably get, we're early, we're ahead of time. So we can get moving on with lightning talks in just a minute. But.
Yeah, I would just add one more thing. I think, listening to Adrian speak, it kind of reminds me of one of the points that came up during the visioning activity earlier today, when we think about what do we want the future of news to look like. And one of the suggestions, or one of the suggestions posted was, people reporting on their own stories, telling their own stories. So it's we may, we have, as Adrian said, a lot of people in the community who are looking to share their stories, but they just don't have the access, whether it be in terms of, technical needs, or just in terms of finding platforms. So it's, it's really been a pleasure for me, and I look forward to continuing to do the work that supports these individuals who are trying to speak to the community and beyond, about concerns that are in South Jersey, but have implications for the rest of the communities throughout the state as well. So I'm really excited about this project. And again, I'm really looking forward to working with Adrian and with everyone at the center and continuing to share our progress with you all.
And one last thing, I was just going to touch on one last thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
We do have the resources for journalism. It's just so many of our journalists also end up leaving New Jersey as well, from the South Jersey area. A lot of people go to Cali, they go to Florida, they go everywhere except for New Jersey. So that was also another thing that we also can pose to, is if you're not necessarily ready, or if you're an individual who's just waiting for the opportunity to just reach out, we can also fellowship with other close organizations like Rec Philly, in which a lot of us South Jerseyans go over to Philly. It's like, okay, well, let's go over to the city that's the closest one there. They have the most resources. We can also fellowship with the already running media organizations to condition more journalists in South Jersey. That was just my last
thing. Yep. That was a great point. It's an excellent point. Yeah. And so Clyde dropped a question in the chat too, about what does the project offer organizations like his in introducing new voices, and how can organizations like his get involved? So Clyde Huey's he's been an advisor to the South Jersey Information Equity Project, and he runs Frontrunner New Jersey, which is a fantastic website based out of Atlantic County. So how could someone like Clyde and his organization potentially get involved in the South Jersey Information Equity Project? And what can we offer organizations like his?
Sure. So I guess the first point I should mention is that the project does focus on Camden, Burlington, and Gloucester counties. So you're right, for the moment. So that would be one, stipulation as far as getting involved with the project. But for sure, even if you're based outside of those counties, we're interested in hearing from you and getting advice from you as well. And so I would say that the first point is to reach out to us here at the center. You have my contact information. We are, happy to hear from you and willing to work with you in terms of assisting you in your development of news and media stories, and also helping you in amplifying your platforms. Also, I would say that I had that thread there and I lost it. But also, I will say that the survey, yes, that's what it is. We are going to be reaching out to journalists who are based in South Jersey. We're just going to, open it up to members of the New Jersey News Commons, especially, who are based in the region, to kind of help us get a better sense of what's needed. So for those of you who are, Adrian talked about people leaving the area because of the lack of opportunities. Tell us, if there's, what we can do to help make it, to help facilitate your work and your reporting in the region. So that's just, directly contacting us, filling out the survey, letting us know what the needs are. And then from there, we can begin to have more discussions about, what kinds of programming and training and workshops we can implement through the project. Yeah,
and our goal to offer organizations like Clyde's too would be potentially more content, potentially, access to more media makers who can, provide content and can connect with the community. Right. We want to, we're hoping to create a network, right? I mean, Adrian, that you're nodding, that's not necessarily one singular thing. but a network that hopefully folks like Clyde can draw on.
Yeah. And that speaks to also the media partnerships that we're looking to create too.
Yes.
To help promote the works that will be created by the fellows who participate.
Yep.
So yeah, we're also on the lookout for those as well. So if you have a newsroom that's already set up in the region, like Clyde mentioned, this is another opportunity to help amplify those stories.
We just hired Adrian this week, so we're just getting started with this.
Yeah.
Adrian, go ahead. You're going to say something.
And another thing is, I think there's also a reoccurring trend of just looking for news, just being around and having individuals who are in the community who know what newsworthy things are. You know what I mean? Just being able to identify what news is and just being able to report on it, write it, so if you know any just, journalists in general, or if you are just active in your community, one of the things that we would be actively looking for are individuals who are, servicing the community, who can actually report on what's going on, so we can have a newsworthy source of, information. You know what I mean? So a lot of times it's just knowing what is actually newsworthy and what we're looking to report on sometimes too, because there are so many stories that may go out, but it's like, okay, we're not necessarily looking for that, but we just want to be honest from all perspectives, if that makes sense as well. So yeah, just knowing how to tie everything together.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm always so honored when Allison Davis joins our events, and she posted. If you don't know Allison, she's a founding member of NABJ. She's based up here in North Jersey, and she posted in the chat a little bit of history. The Garden State had an NAB chapter a few years ago. Many of the members were in South Jersey, and unfortunately most left, and those Black journalists in Northern Jersey joined the New York chapter of Black journalists. Right. We talked about that a little bit. I didn't know that history though. Right. Allison. Thank you, Allison. We were talking about, why isn't there a NABJ chapter in Jersey? And we're really proud of our partnership with PABJ, and this effort's focused in South Jersey, but our work at the center is also focused across the entire state. And so the work and what we learned from doing this intensive effort with Adrian in South Jersey, who knows where else that could go, what else we might be able to do.
Especially if our South Jerseyans are already branching out to other places as well. When they return back home for the holidays or just periodically throughout the year, they may have tons of more opportunities for us to branch out and, show other places or learn from other places that are already super established to know what to do next, if that makes sense.
And Clyde, you mentioned if there's interest, let's talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Yeah, we helped start the ONA New Jersey chapter a couple of years ago, which has been very quiet since the pandemic, unfortunately. But yeah, absolutely.
And that's actually a good idea, Clyde, because one of the prototypes that I was actually looking at as well was from Rec Philly. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Rec Philly, but Rec Philly is basically a conglomerate workshop for media journalists, right? So they have workshops, they have creative sessions, they have workrooms in which people can utilize and use the equipment. They're fully equipped with anything, HDMI cords, cameras, anything you need. You can, creatives can reserve and rent these spaces. So when we think of, the organizations that are already put together, it's basically like, okay, let's see what pieces of the puzzle we have right now and how we can, incorporate everyone under one umbrella and actually get the ball rolling. So I'm just excited for that because we're just so close. We're just so close. Yes. And it's just great.
Well, thank you, Adrian. Welcome to the center. Thank you, Cassandra. You'll be hearing lots more from us, all of us, on this project next year.